Okay, I think Cleo, I think I got it. Yeah, okay, it's rolling. Oh, hi there. This is Theo the Lion from Between the Lions, coming at you from the basement of the Barnaby B. Busterfield Library. You're watching the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Ooh, creepy. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Now, you kids, keep being wild about reading, okay? Roll it! Oh, boy.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Happy here with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh. With me today, as always, our co-hosts, Chris Bixby and Matt Bingel. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Doing wonderful. Hello, everybody. How are you, Jake?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thank you for asking. Chris, what do we have for today?
Yes, today's guest is a puppeteer who for several decades has been a Muppet performer with Sesame Street and the Muppets, and currently performs characters like Ernie, Herry Monster, Walter, Lips, Daniel, and many others. He's also best known for performing Tutter and Pip on Bear in the Big Blue House, Theo Lion on Between the Lions, and many others that we'll talk about later on. Please welcome Peter Linz. Peter, happy to have you here.
I don't know any of those characters, but they've got funny names at least. That's kind of fun.
All right, happy to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
I'm good. I'm feeling happy and nostalgic.
Yay.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Love to hear
Wonderful to
that.
hear.
So to start this off, so for those who don't know you, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name is Peter Linz, and I play with dolls for a living on TV and movies. I'm a puppeteer. I've wanted to be a puppeteer since basically my earliest memories. I was just the right age to grow up with Sesame Street and the Muppet Show. And I got incredibly lucky, or have a defective genome, and have, I get to make a living just doing just that. It's good because I have no other marketable skills, though I am good at bagging groceries. Yeah.
Nice.
Wonderful to hear. So, what was your background like, and how did you grow up?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and my amazing 94-year-old mother still lives there in the same house I grew up in. And
wow.
yeah, she's an inspiration. I'd call her right now to tell her about the show, but I'm pretty sure she's working out with her personal trainer, which is what she does twice a week. Anyway, yeah, no, I grew up in Atlanta, and like I said, puppetry was always a hobby. I grew up on the sitcoms of the 70s, the great Norman Lear, who just passed a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I watched almost all of his shows, grew up with those, and yeah, what do you want to know? I used to, my first paid gig was a birthday party puppet show for a little girl who lived 2 doors up.
Oh, wow.
And I'd always done puppet shows for the neighborhood kids, but I remember when she turned, was it her 6th birthday or something, or 4th birthday? I don't recall, but her mom gave me an envelope, and I got home and opened the envelope, and there were 2 $5 bills in the envelopes. And I asked my mom, I'm confused. What is this? And my mother had to explain, well, she paid you for your work. You did a service. I said, yeah, but I was having fun. I would have done it for free. She said, well, good, but and thank you, Jim Henson. I've been able to make a living doing it
Absolutely.
ever since. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what kind of inspired you to get into puppetry?
I like you guys. I mean, I was such a fan. I was such a fan of Sesame Street. The Bert and Ernie Cookie Monster especially was a favorite, and then the Muppet Show. And I don't know. I suppose my earliest memory, in this preschool that I went to, they had this little mohair squirrel hand puppet, and I remember being able to make the other kids laugh with the antics of this little hand puppet. And I just loved that feeling so much. I don't know. My mother says I wasn't shy. I think I was a little bit shy, but anytime I had a puppet on, you could say or do anything. Your id comes out through this little hand puppet, or at least mine did, and it was very empowering and just fun. And I really loved that feeling of being able to make other people laugh, singing and dancing and making people happy. And there was a short period of time where I thought I had to I went to college and I got a degree in psychology, but halfway through my junior year, I remembered what I knew as like an 8-year-old. Like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to be a puppeteer with the Muppets. Anyway, yeah, so I went ahead and finished up, got my degree, and then became an intern at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta. And I remember telling them what my goals were, was to work for the Muppets. And I remember Vince Anthony, who founded the center, said, "Well, we can't really help you there, and we don't really have those connections." I said, "Well, no, that's fine. I want to learn all about puppetry in general." Basically saying whatever I could because I wanted to work there, and but I really did just want to work for the Muppets. Don't tell them I said so.
Awesome. So since 1991, you've been a puppeteer for Sesame Street. How did kind of like you first began working for them?
Well, I when I was working at the Center for Puppetry Arts, there was, and then Jim died. I'd been working in the museum. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was shortly before Jim died. It was the original time that Muppets was going to sell to Disney, and they were going to have studios in Orlando, and they were basically like, well, we need a group of puppeteers in the South that we can call on to do all our shows and productions that we're going to start doing down there. So Steve and Kevin went around to different places in the South, and one of the stops was the Center for Puppetry Arts, and they held an audition for a workshop because there weren't any specific projects, but they knew there's probably going to be some. So I remember my friend Robin Walsh, called me up and she said, "Okay, these auditions, they use monitors." And I was like, "What?" Because there's no internet, there's no way for me to know that they use monitors. I was always just done live puppetry, like, you want to see what your hand is doing, you look at it. So I remember her coming over to my folks' house, and she had a security camera she got from the Salvation Army or something, and we set it up and we just practiced. It's all backwards. What's going on? Anyway, it gave us a little bit of a leg up. I went to that audition. I passed. I got invited to a 5-day workshop with Steve and Kevin in Orlando at what is now called, I think, Disney Hollywood Studios. It was called MGM Studios at the time. And that's when I first learned the Muppet technique. And I remember asking Kevin, he said, a lot of people, they try this, they can't do it. It's just, no matter how hard they try. I'm like, am I one of those? I don't want to be one of those people. And he gave me advice that I've given countless times when people have asked me the same thing. He said, get a camera you can hook up to a monitor that you can watch. Get a puppet that has a moving mouth and eyes that can appear to focus right down the barrel of the lens, and practice everything that we've been talking about the past 5 days. So I did just that. The following year, I was on tour with the Center for Puppetry Arts, their production of Pinocchio. And actually, sorry, as soon as I got home from that workshop in Orlando, back to Atlanta, I went out and financed a camcorder, a big old RCA camcorder. And the camcorder, it's not a phone, it's this giant thing that took full-size VHS video cassettes and has a little suit. I actually still have the thing. I think it still works too. It had a black and white viewfinder, and I got a tripod. And then when I went on tour with Pinocchio for the next year, every hotel we were in, I hooked up the camera to the monitor. I had a few puppets, and I would practice all the things that I had learned. Sorry, this is a really long-winded answer to your.
No, that's okay. Question. That's okay.
Yeah,
no worries.
Okay.
Love long answers.
And then the following summer, so I'd been touring with Pinocchio. I'd been practicing, whatever. The following summer was the very first O'Neill Center conference, the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in Waterford, Connecticut. It was the first puppetry conference. It was just a puppetry conference, and we didn't know it was going to be the first. It was the first. There's been a bunch of them since then. But anyway, the focus, it was like 10 days or 2 weeks, and we were learning how to build and operate Muppet-style puppets. And it was billed as a workshop for working puppeteers. You had to write a note about why you're a working puppeteer and send in, I don't remember what all. Of course, I couldn't afford it. My father helped out, and he was very, very supportive. And it was taught by Marty Robinson, and of course, the Telly Monster and Snuffleupagus. It was taught by Pam Arciero, Grungetta.
Also a good friend of ours. Yeah, I love him.
And Kathy Mullen.
Oh, okay.
Mookie Fraggle and Kathy, who raised the X-wing out of the swamp in Dagobah. And and then the puppet, and there was a puppet building side as well. Actually, there's a whole mess of us that came out of that first workshop. Tim Lagasse, Heather Ash, Mark Gale, Allison Mork, who was Cherry on Pee-wee's Playhouse, and the whole mess of us out of that first workshop. Anyway, day one, Marty Robinson says to the group, the Jim Henson Company is not hiring. Muppets is not hiring. This is not an audition. This is just to help you just get another facet to your skills as a puppeteer. This is, there's all these different types of puppetry. Here's the TV style. Just add it to your repertoire. And apparently, as soon as they had gotten back to New York, they were asked, did anybody stand out? And my name, a few of our names came up, but my name was one of the names that came up. And I got a call like within 2 weeks from Sesame Street asking if I'd come up and audition.
Nice.
And then yeah. And I remember that there was a schedule conflict and the dates got changed. And meanwhile, in my life, the tour was over, but I was still with the Center for Puppetry Arts, and I had been cast as a resident puppeteer. That means I was going to work at the Center for I wasn't touring anymore. I was going to be at the center. They have this wonderful theater there, and I was cast as Wilbur in Charlotte's Web. And I was so excited. I was going to be making like $400 a week. Blew my mind. I couldn't believe the money. And then this audition kind of happened right in the middle of our rehearsal period. And if you know anything about live theater, you cannot miss any rehearsals. And I was going to be missing like a week of them. So Miracle of Miracles, Bobby Box, who was a puppeteer there at the center, agreed to rehearse alongside of me. And then I forfeited. God, this is a lot of detail. You sure? Wow. What's going on and on? Anyway, we rehearsed together side by side, and I forfeited my pay for a week so he could do it. So the center would be covered in either way. If I got the job in New York, Bobby could do the role. If I didn't, Bobby agreed to let me go ahead and have the role. It was just the most generous thing. And I remember calling, it was a lot on the line, and I remember calling up to the Jim Henson Company, and I said, so how many people are auditioning? Because I was trying to figure out my odds if it was worth going through all this headache. And she said, I think it's going to be 11 of you. And I said, okay, well, how many roles are there? And she said 10.
Oh, wow.
Turns out, in hindsight, it wasn't really an audition. Do you guys remember there were some, they didn't talk, but we call them, was it the funky funk? There were these big springy puppets that dance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With the long like arms and
Yes. That's what it was for. And everybody that was working on them was people that already worked for them. And it was basically just a chance for Kevin to try me out on the arms to see how I fit in with the group. It wasn't technically like an audition per se. Anyway, long story longer, I got the job. So beware of asking me questions. I'm sorry. I just
No
worries at all.
Good.
More than you ever wanted to know. It happens. It's not a first for this program.
No, not at all. Not for those who are new. Good luck. So do you remember your first day on Sesame Street and the first puppet you performed?
Vaguely. I do remember the first thing that I did. And actually, I don't think I was even working that day. I mean, the first puppet that I did was the Dancing Monsters, and I was Kevin's hands. But I think it was the guy on the right. If you look at the three of them, I think it was the hands of the guy on the far right. But the first day I was watching, and they were doing this song. I think it was Bugtown Boogie. They morphed it into another bit where Ernie is peeking through a hole in a brick wall, and there's all these bugs that are dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kevin was looking around like, hey, Peter, grab up those two puppets. And it was terrifying because I had done lots of practicing with one puppet, but these were two puppets that were pinned together because they were dancing, and you had to be all coordinated. So he put two puppets on my hand. And I don't remember the other puppeteers in the scene, but there's music, and all we're doing is dancing. And John Stone, late great John Stone, was directing. And basically, I just had to run around like this with the two puppets dancing like that. And
Oh wow.
and twirling around and
Oh,
watching the
wow.
monitor, and I'd never done anything like it
Crazy.
before. And I remember Carol Lee Wilcox, who was the head wrangler there and she had been for many, many years. That we did one take, and she came up to me all excited because apparently I didn't stink. She said, "Pierre, that was great, that was great." But she said, "But smile." Oh no, maybe it was Kevin. One of them said, "Smile," and you know how you make a puppet smile? This is how you make a puppet smile.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yep,
my
yep.
early take, my characters were dancing like this. It didn't look like they were having fun. And then it was either Carol Lee or Kevin said, "Smile," like, and it made all the difference in the world.
That's
So
great.
so I didn't blow it, but those were the first puppets I did on Sesame Street. I should probably try to find that clip. I know it exists. I'm sure it's
That
on
would be
YouTube.
interesting. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, because John took a single of me. I remember, they just took a single camera shot in the middle of the dance, and I think I might have mugged camera. I'm not 100%, but yeah.
So on the subject of characters, I know we're obviously jumping forward years and years and years, but of course currently you perform Ernie and Herry Monster. I would imagine kind of getting both of those characters was kind of a different process in a way because they were kind of at different times. What was the process of inheriting those characters?
Very, very different. Well, I had actually auditioned for Ernie. So they had when Steve left Sesame Street, they had internal auditions for Ernie, and there were different producers there at the time that are no longer with the show. But I auditioned and I practiced Ernie, and the auditions dragged on and on, and at this point, I had already done Walter, I'd already done Bear, I'd already done a lot of things, Muppets. And I remember Marty asked me for a videotape. Said, can you make a reel of your work? Because the producer's asking, well, what else has he done? I'm like, okay, I can, sure. They can just look on YouTube. But anyway, I didn't end up getting Ernie the first time. There was at the time, Billy Barkhurst, this great kid, had
Billy,
been,
yes.
yeah,
Billy's
yeah,
great.
great guy. And he
Yes.
had been doing the voice of Ernie for the live shows. The live shows they pre-record them, and the people dance around, whatever. So he'd been doing the voice, and the producers felt like, well, we've already got somebody doing Ernie. Why don't we just train him up as a puppeteer? And of course, that's easier said than done. So, and guess who was one of the main people who got to train him? The guy who really wanted the role.
Yes.
But I didn't. And again, Billy's a great guy, and it's like, it's showbiz. This is that. No worries. This is what we'll do. And we tried for a few years, but it didn't quite work out. And then, believe it or not, when it was right around the time that Matt Vogel was cast as Kermit, he and Marty, who are two puppet captains on Sesame Street, at that point they were like, they went to the producers and said, Peter's Ernie. There was no audition. Matt called me up and he said, we want you to be Ernie. We told the producers, we're not having auditions, we're not workshopping. It should have been you. It's you. And that's how I got Ernie, which was nice. I did, and to this day I still feel bad for Billy because he is such a good guy. But anyway, so that's how Ernie came about. And Herry Monster, I think there were, again, it was in-house auditions, and it was just by invitation. And I did it, and I got the job.
That's great.
That's great.
For some reason, I don't know why, but they gave it to me. Probably because of my big muscles. Yeah, so that was really different for sure.
Right.
Yes, it was. So, also in recent years, you've also gotten to perform Julia's dad, Daniel. What is performing Julia's dad like?
Yeah, it's funny. That was another audition. It was another in-house, meaning just by invitation, just the core Sesame people, and then the other folks that come and work with us. They wanted a dad, and I remember preparing for that audition. They give you a script and a little picture of what the character's going to look like. And I said, I came up with a character voice for him, but I remember telling the producers, but I could also do my own voice. I'm a dad. At this point, I've got 4 kids. I've got 3 kids and a stepson, and I could just, and it seemed like the character was very straight. It was just, he wasn't some goofy guy. He was just a dad. So I just gave it my own voice, and voila. They're like, yeah, we like your nurturing dad voice. So that's Julia's dad. He looks like what's his name? Howie Mandel, I think. But
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
right.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yes, it's interesting. There's a number of characters that have come along that it's just basically an in-house audition.
Nice.
Awesome. So now moving on from Sesame Street, you perform on the PBS series The Puzzle Place, performing as Skye and Nuzzle in the first 2 seasons. What was that like?
Wowie zowie. Yeah, that was fun. That was the first time I was working in Los Angeles, which is where I am talking to you from now. See, it's LA, it's green, you can tell.
Yes.
Southern California. Yeah, that was amazing. I remember it was season, golly, I guess it was it after season 24, 25? Maybe it was after season 25. No, 24, because after my second season. Right, 24 is after season 24. I remember hanging out in the or maybe 25. I'm sorry, my memory.
That's okay.
We were hanging out in the Muppet room at Sesame, and Carmen, my dear friend Carmen Ospar, was telling about the show that she called it Kevin's show because Kevin had worked on the pilot and designed the characters. And she was going to go to LA for 6 months and work on the show called at that time it was Puzzle Works.
Yeah,
What it was
right.
called.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to do that. And she said, well, no, it was season 25. And she said, you should ask Kevin if you can. I was like, and I said, hey Kevin, are you still casting for that show? Because I want to work on it. And he said, yeah, I did. Really? Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, you still have to audition for the producers, but yeah, sure. And it's like, cool. And so I did, and I came out here, and it was right after the Northridge earthquake. That's the only time I've ever felt an earthquake. It was an aftershock. I was lying on my bed in the hotel room, and I had just taken a nap. I was kind of waking up, and it's like, why is the room going? Whoa, it's an earthquake, and then it was over. It was just an aftershock. Yeah, so that was crazy. That was, gosh, we were young and rich is what we called ourselves. We were definitely young. It was funny. We did Puzzle Place at the same time that Friends was starting up. And every Thursday night we'd all go. Noel had a slightly bigger apartment than the rest of us, and we all go over to Noel's place together and watch Friends. And there were 6 of us on Puzzle Place and 6 characters on Friends.
Yeah.
And
I didn't think
I
of it
remember-
like that. That's cool.
I did not think about that. Wow.
Yeah, and
That's great.
it was right at the same time. And I remember a few months. It was sometime within that first year. I was on an airplane going to Texas for some big PBS event, and was it Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston? Two of the Friends were on this little plane from LA to wherever this was in Texas, and I saw them in first class, and we were going towards the back. I was like, oh, I have to go talk to them. And so I just went up to them and I said, me and my 5 friends, we do this PBS show, and every Thursday we get together and we watch Friends, and you all are amazing. And they were like, we do that too, because they all got together and they would watch the show.
Oh wow.
That was a fun little thing.
Right.
But yeah, that was tremendous. It was crazy. It was my first taste of like Hollywood showbiz. I mean, it felt like, because they had to put us up because we were from out of town, and so they put us up in these corporate apartments, and then we got cars, and Mazda Miatas had just been invented, so like 3 of us had little Miata convertibles. Yeah, it was a lot of, and then there was the show, and that was a lot of fun too.
Wonderful show.
So, yes, it really is.
So one of your most well-known puppeteering roles, of course, was on the Disney series Bear in the Big Blue House as Tutter, Pip, and various other characters. How did you kind of begin working on that show?
Same deal. There was an audition over at the Henson Carriage House, on 67th Street, and they were seeing everybody. They were seeing like the regular Muppet, what are now like the Disney Muppet guys, the Sesame Street guys, and then everybody else. And I had gotten the script in advance, and I auditioned for this little character, this little girl mouse named Mouse. And I think the pilot still exists somewhere where a bear refers to Mouse as Mouse. Mouse is she's very
I think it's
whatever.
on YouTube or something now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I just did this little neurotic mouse, and then And then for the otter, for Pip and Pop, it was actually Pummel and Pop. So I guess I was Pummel.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the pilot with Joey Mazzarino.
Oh, I love
And
Joey.
Joey,
yeah,
so wonderful.
and for whatever reason, Joey, that bad. You like him? I guess. No, I love Joey. He didn't end up doing the series, but and Tyler Bunch took that role. But yeah, we did the pilot. Joey and I did the pilot together, and I just he has this cutest voice that he did for the otter, and I just basically tried to match him. Found something that would work with his character. You little otters who love water and stuff. Yeah, yeah, and then there's that mouse that I did. That mouse is having a moment. Do you all? I mean, people send me stuff. I see things on social media, like, and there are these memes and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
I can't even remember what the actual meme was, but it was a meme of Tutter dressed as a pumpkin from the Halloween episode.
yeah.
It's really crazy just how much that character alone has such a huge, following.
Right.
Well, you know what? I think it is all the kids. I don't know how old you guys are, but like my daughters were exactly the right age for Bear, and they're 26 now. So I figure people in their mid 20s, it's just the mid to late 20s, they're just the right age to be getting nostalgic and maybe having the families. And now that the show's on Disney, they can show their kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The show that they
so
love.
happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Me
right
too.
around that age. We're right around that age. Jake is
Okay.
19 and Chris and I are 23. Actually, I turned 24 in February, which is
Yep.
You're an old man.
nuts.
Matthew, you're a
I
very
know.
old man.
Gee, thanks, Tutter.
About it. I don't know how old I am. What's different than mouse ears? Very different.
Yeah, they are very
That's
different.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So I'm kind of curious. Do you have any favorite Bear episodes or songs?
Boy, you know what? It was, Jake. It was so long ago. I don't have tons, and we've done so much. I do have some favorite. I love Dear Grandma. The song Dear Grandma.
I love that
I
song.
love that one.
Beautiful song.
I
That was really early
also-
on too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
season 1.
Yeah.
I love the Tutter's the Emmentaler solo.
Oh yeah.
Is that season
Oh,
4?
Yeah, I
yeah.
think so because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
with
He's-
like
he's
the
all
mouse
nervous ab-
school.
The
Yeah.
mouse
Yes,
school.
that's it. Yep.
Yeah,
Mouse
the
School.
mouse school. You know that mouse school. We were when we shot. Just sorry, as a little aside. We were shooting the Muppets, the Jason Segel film in 2010. We
Mhm.
were shooting on the Henson lot. One of the scenes. It's when they're like outside the theater, and they had, I guess, from the archives, they pulled out all the stuff from the warehouse, and just to make it look like it was the Muppet Show or whatever. And sitting off to the side was the mouse school, like this little doghouse sized set piece that was Tutter's mouse school. Like, you guys still have this?
What?
Wow.
I don't think it's in the film. I don't think you can. It
Right.
shows up
No.
in the actual cut of the
No.
movie. But I remember seeing it when they were walking through the lot. Like, whoa, that was really cool. It still exists. Well, I mean, of course, the potty episode. Noel McNeil sent me just yesterday a link to, I guess, somebody on T Fury. Here's the thing: if the company that owns the product doesn't make the product, then the fans will. And there's all this fan created art and fan created T-shirts and stickers and all this stuff. So there's one of these on. I think it's T Fury, but it was just it's a little photo image of Tutter on the potty, and the caption says, "I just had to poop."
Oh wow.
And you can get it in a T-shirt or a sticker or a mug or a sweatshirt.
Oh wow, nice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I was
There's
tempted.
lots of there are lots of great, of course, episode songs. Otter Love.
Otter
Oh
Love's a great one.
yeah, Tyler would write the raps.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah,
They're a lot of fun.
Otter Love is great.
I
Yeah.
need a little help today.
Oh, that's a nice
Oh,
one. That's
yeah, yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's a great one. I remember these. What was going through my head the other day? The from the Christmas What If There Was No Big Blue House?
I was
gosh.
just thinking of that one.
Gosh, love that one. And,
Gives me
Beautiful.
chills every time I hear it. That's such a one.
Yes.
That whole special in itself is just
Yeah.
cool.
so great.
Yeah.
I love it very
Yeah.
much. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, and man, Tutter family reunion.
Oh my
the Tutter
gosh.
family reunion.
Yeah.
I have to go back and watch that one. I haven't seen that one in ever.
Yeah.
So many. It's such a wonderful show, Bear. Now it's on Disney Plus
Yeah.
for new generation. It's wonderful.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that it's out there. I don't know how it's doing. I hope kids are watching it. I hope adults are watching it with their kids.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
sure.
not
It's really
privy to that
interesting.
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not either.
It's
But
really
I'm
interesting
sure.
that they're like a trend where like dogs watching it too.
That let me tell you about that.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
So
Yeah,
great.
I hadn't seen one of those posts in a while, but yeah,
yeah.
that's
No, that's funny.
I mean, you get like we said, like people who I guess we grew up with Bear, and now they're watching it with their kids, but their dogs. All right, you do you.
Well, I mean, the
don't-
show has animal characters in it, so I guess.
Oh yeah. The weird thing is that people with dogs are actually comparing them to Bear. That's what I don't understand.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That confuses
Like the big
me.
fur, I can understand it a little bit. Like the
Okay,
big
yeah,
furry, like
maybe
brown.
the big fur,
animal.
but
Yeah.
nothing else. That's it. It's just
Yeah.
it's just that confuses me, but it's interesting. So moving on from Bear, you also puppeteered on the Book of Pooh, which used tabletop puppetry. Could you kind of talk about working with that style of puppetry?
Yeah, that show was really different from a lot of other things I've done because we didn't do the voices. That was much more like animation. It was a much more technical show. And we would get because everybody knows what those characters sound like. They have very established voices and personalities. So we would get, I think initially on cassette and eventually on CD, the tracks, like the episode, and then had to listen to it over and over again. And we have a script too, so we could see the words written down, but to memorize the dialogue. And then the challenge with that show, and there are a lot of challenges with that show, but is not just learning just the lip sync, but then also the intent and the emotion and thinking behind the words. So some of the funnest moments in that show to play was when they're not talking, when they're thinking or reacting. For that show, we worked standing up. There was like all these little different shaped tables that were wrapped in green, and they could be configured in all sorts of different ways if the characters had to walk. And I had 3 people on Pooh. I remember I had like a butt stick. It was just like a little stick on his rump that came off the back. And I think it had a lever on it that made his eyes open and close. And then my hand went in through a hole in the back of his head. And I had this glove that I wore that had a red felt thing that went over my thumb, and that was Pooh's tongue, so he could lick his lips every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the time was just inside the mouth. And then James Godwin was on my arms, and then the late great
I love
Eric.
James.
James is great, and the late Eric Engelhardt did my feet. Yeah, and gosh, I guess we did 2 seasons of Book of Pooh. We shot that down in the meatpacking district of Manhattan for a couple of years. Yeah, it was a challenge. It was very technical, but fun. And we were all dressed in these green suits. These suits. It was this 3M material. It was green, but it was embedded with microscopic bits of glass that would reflect light. So even though it was green, it didn't matter. It would reflect whatever light you shone at it. So they had this ring light around the camera. It was a ring of LEDs that were green, and they would just aim those at the characters to get rid of shadows, to be able to key us out and put the characters in the 100-acre wood. But anytime you took a flash picture of us, it would reflect back the white of the flash, so it would look like we were wearing white suits instead of green.
Nice.
And I remember one picture of Noel that he looked at, and it had all his face was all little dots of light coming off his face, and it was all the little bits of glass. And he's like, "How much of this stuff are we inhaling every day?" It's like it's all over my skin.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Anyway, that and another show that was similar, that we did in a similar way, was It's a Big Big World.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, that's a
Yes.
wonderful
Yes.
show.
and that one
Sure.
we also well, the voices were pre-recorded, but it was our own voices, so that made it a little bit better. But still, I feel very strongly that when you pre-record a puppet show and then perform to a pre-recorded track, it really loses something. It really takes away the spontaneity. It's something about the energy. Even when I was a kid, there was a in Atlanta. I remember there's a puppet troupe that did a couple of times I've seen in shows to a pre-recorded track, and I understand it's more, it can be a lot more practical, especially in a live show situation. With It's a Big World, there was an airport right next door, so the building we were in wasn't soundproof. But I just think it's so much better if the person performing the character also does the voice live, just like a regular person actor, a flesh actor.
Yeah, but no,
Absolutely.
it's a Big World, wonderful show as well. I remember
Yes.
watching that
Mhm.
a bit growing up, and
Yeah,
Mm.
Snook right there.
Snook
it's
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Oko, which was another
Yes.
character you performed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, really interesting because I want to mention about a Big Friend Day
Mhm.
where it was kind of like where it was like where PBS airing that was kind of like promotion for the show
Yeah.
where basically Emmy Elizabeth and Clifford was like finding like the hints what the characters are, which that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Oh.
and then there
And
were
then Snook
the
did some appearances too.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, that was the great thing with Snook, is that they put this little, what they called a lipstick camera, in his forehead, buried in his fur, when I did these live appearances. And so I'd still have the monitor on my chest, and I was blind. I couldn't see through that fur, but wherever I was in there, basically like Big Bird or like Bear. So wherever I pointed that head, that would show me I could see with that monitor. And the other thing was, I knew that for his eyes, for it to look like Snook was looking you right in the eyes, if I had put a person's face in the bottom right hand corner of my screen, then I would know that his eyes were looking right at them. So I knew that's where his main focus was. And it was like operating a 7 foot tall furry camcorder. It was really fun. And the best time I had doing that was when we were in Cannes at MIPCOM, which is an international kids television film festival convention thing that happens in Cannes in France,
oh wow.
on the Côte d'Azur. And there was some VIP event that we went to, and people were walking around with drinks and Snook and just walking around and talking to people. We also did something in a conference room, and with
That's great.
the half dozen times I did him live, it was great fun because I could lie down in that suit, I could roll around the floor, I could be incredibly physical in it, and kind of like a team mascot, except that he talks and he's articulate, and he has eye mechanism, and it was really fun. I loved doing that. I could pick up little kids, and yeah,
Yeah, right.
Snook
I
Snook
could
is
be
such a
really,
great
really,
character.
really physical in that suit. And I think that puppet is now it's at the Center for Puppetry Arts. It's back in
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember one other appearance that Snook did. I remember seeing it on YouTube years ago, where Snook was at the tree lighting event.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. And
It was
you
Where-
performed
yeah,
the Big Holiday.
big holiday Snook. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
and the Snook did kind of like that too for a segment of Snook on the Road.
Hmm.
But that was a pretty good.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool
we tried
segment.
we tried some stuff. I remember, gosh, we went to a beach. Mitchell Kriegman, who created the series and created Bear in the Big Blue House,
Mhm.
wanted to try putting Snook in the real world. So yeah, we did some tests with him. Took him to the beach, and that was really fun.
Nice.
Anyway, a few other places.
Nice. So you're also best known for your work on the long-running PBS series Between the Lions as Theo, and Announcer Bunny, a whole bunch of other characters for that too. What was it like getting to work on that show?
That was so fun. That was the closest thing, I think, to what, of course, I was a child when the Muppet Show was on, but there were parts of that experience that I thought felt like how the early Muppet Show must have felt, sort of. And let me clarify that, because they're so wildly different from one another. But it was this little ensemble, and we got to do so many little incidental characters. They were always writing character new little bits with one-offs, and they were little short skits. And it was Chris Surf and Norman Stiles and Michael Frith. So it had some of the same DNA as Sesame and the Muppet Show. So as a performer, it was great fun getting to bounce around to different characters. Yeah, that was great fun. And even I remember the development of that show when we were Kathy Mullen and Michael Frith and Chris and Norman. They would invite groups of us to Chris's house, Chris Surf's house, and this is before they had the show. And we would read scripts together, and Kathy would cast everybody in different roles every time. So we all just got to hear who sounded like what, who sounded best for the role. And yeah, that was great fun. And that show, boy, that went on and on and on.
Yeah.
We shot a bunch of
seasons.
seasons. Yeah, we shot a bunch of seasons in Mississippi. And made a lot of friends down there. It was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, such a wonderful show. Between the Lions is similarly with Bear. Do you have any favorite Between the Lions episodes or songs?
I love all the cooking segments with Cleo and Theo.
Oh yes.
I knew you were gonna bring those up. I love that whole segment.
Yeah.
I still can't believe they let us get away with it. But yeah.
Right?
But it's
Chris
about
Surf said
reading.
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to help kids learn how to read.
I think
My
John Barnhart said the same thing too.
Yeah.
Like you're surprised at how much I got away with.
Well, can I tell you something? My favorite. Okay, I mean, I love like all the blues songs that I got. Oh my god, I got to sing great songs with Theo.
Silent E blues.
Oh, Silent E, my Silent E. Yeah. Oh, B&D Confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When kids get the lowercase b and lowercase d, they get confused. Which is which. And we did a music video with that, and they used. It was like a Jimi Hendrix song, and the backgrounds are the same backgrounds that Hendrix used in the 60s. Somehow they knew the guy who did those backgrounds. And if you look it up, it's this really psychedelic stuff going on, and that's the real thing. My favorite Between the Lions story actually was not something that aired on the show, but we were at the White House during George W.'s administration, and we were doing a presentation on reading, and Jen and I got to sing W Trouble in the East Room of the White House, and George W. introduced us. And he said, "These from Between the Lions, they're going to sing a song called W Trouble. I don't know the song, but I'm familiar with the concept."
Right? And funny enough, you both did the same thing at the Washington earlier this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Expo.
That's right. You got to see it. Well, this was a big room, a zillion people, and in attendance was Fred Rogers in this particular performance.
Oh,
yes, that's right. I remember Jen told us about that.
Yeah.
And at the end, so this is the same story. At the end, at the end of our W Trouble song, Theo and Cleo look at each other and go, "Nosy, nosy, 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 nosy," and hug, and that's the bit. And I remember I knew Mr. Rogers was there, and I knew I desperately wanted to meet him. I wanted to go find him. He came up to us. He sought us out after that performance, and he held my hand and said, "Thank you so much for what you do for the children of this country." And I especially loved it where the mommy lion and the daddy lion were affectionate with one another. I think it's really important for children to see parents that love each other. So thank you for that. We're like, "Thank you, Mr. Rogers. You're so cool."
Very, very sweet, man.
That is wonderful. So
yes, and the Trouble by Y, My Star Lion.
Mighty Star Lion. Yeah,
that's a really early one.
Yeah. No, read a book today too.
Yeah, that was.
Read a book. There were short stories, honest stories. Yeah.
It's really cool that Theo was kind of a part of like some like PS Kids Way to Learn promos too.
Cool. That's right.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, with Theo and didn't we do one with like Theo and Bear and Barney?
Yeah, that was the We Are Family.
That was the We Are Family.
Right.
I know
that was
Barney,
great.
I know Ernie and
That's
Theo.
Ernie and Theo did one,
Ernie
yeah.
and Theo did
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. That's when
Uh-huh.
Steve was doing Ernie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
that's great. So, is it fine if we can hear a little bit of Theo?
Well, I just want to thank you fellas for being wild about reading. How's that? I don't know. And now it's time for Gwen's word. Gwen's word. Excellent. Gwen here once again at blending field for two brave knights in armor will charge together at high speed and make a word.
That's great.
The plan today
Yeah,
we have is, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how Jake just completely mimicked that. Like, that's impressive, Jake.
Yeah,
Way
it
to
is
go.
impressive,
Way
yeah.
to go. Way to go. Verbatim. Way to go.
I know.
Yes.
The two brave knights in armor will charge together at high speed
high speed.
and make a word.
High speed.
Today we have is, sir. Yeah, I love that segment. So great.
Yeah, so I know Jake has a kind of a deep cut question.
Oh.
Yes, and thank you, Chris. So, you also worked on another thinking series, Lomax, The Hound of Music, as the title
Wow.
character Lomax. Can you talk a bit about that?
No. No, yeah. We also shot that in Mississippi. Lomax the Hound of Music. Yeah, teaching, bringing like American folk music to preschoolers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
I'm in-
wonderful show, and also, Jen was on that, and Pam,
Yeah,
and
Anthony. Yeah,
Mhm.
Pam.
Anthony
Yeah.
Asbury, Pam, Jim Krupa.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got to play. Actually, they dressed me up as a human for one episode. I like had hair and makeup and a beard.
Oh,
I had a
wow.
beard. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a little homespun. That was a good show. That was fun to work on. And Amy Miles was our human host. My favorite moment from that show, it really wasn't we were shooting the opening. We were at this train museum in Connecticut. I can't think of the name of it, but they have this oh gosh, was it the third or the fourth Indiana Jones movie? There's like an opening there at a train station in the 30s or 40s, and they use this train station as the place. But it's right near the Connecticut River, and is it the Goodspeed Opera House? I don't recall, but anyway, it's an actual train station. They have steam locomotives, and they dressed up this caboose as the Lomax caboose, because this is the dog and the cat and Amy. They live on a caboose of a train, and they have these old steam engines. And we had some downtime while we were shooting, and one of the engineers of the steam engine said, "You want to ride up here in the cab?" And I'm like, yeah, I've never ridden in the cab of a steam locomotive. That's so cool. So I had to sign a release, and we went on this little train ride. And picture, I always knew steam locomotives, they look incredibly heavy, right? There's these black engines and the smoke coming up, and the steam coming out of them, and so it seems like a big, heavy, solid thing. But the thing that struck me most getting to ride in that cab is that those things move, like they bounce, like the boiler is moving slightly different from the cab, and everything is moving and bouncing, and like you don't think of those things as moving. I always thought a train just goes, heavy and smooth down the track, but a live steam engine is a bouncy, scary ass thing.
No, you're good. You're good.
I bet.
You're good. So
Anyway,
you
Lomax,
also
yeah.
So you also puppeteered on the Nick Jr. series Blues Room as
Did
Polka
I?
Dots and Doodleboard. What was that like?
That was the first time I worked with Leslie. 'Cause
Okay.
she was doing Blue at that time.
Nice. Yeah. Love
I
that
don't
show.
remember a whole ton of about that one.
I know Joey was on that. James Godwin, I think, and Tim, and maybe Heather.
Board. I can't do the voice right now because I have a little chest thing going on, but yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot for you on that one, I'm afraid.
That's okay.
I still get residual checks a couple times a year, so it's still airing somewhere.
Yeah,
show's
it's
still
on
around.
Paramount
know
Plus,
where-
so that's probably
That's
Ah,
probably it.
yeah.
That's
I get
probably
a couple dozen checks for like a penny or two.
it.
Yeah. So moving on to the Muppets side of things, you currently perform the character Walter, who got his start on the movie with Jason Segel, which you briefly mentioned. What was, because I know out of all the Muppets in that movie, Walter obviously got the most kind of screen time with Jason Segel. What was it like getting to work with him and Amy on that movie?
Oh, they're so wonderful. I mean, if you can get past how ugly Amy Adams is to look at, she's just hideous. But no, please, so beautiful. It was great. Jason was the most charismatic person I've ever met. Like, you hang out with him a little bit, and you just want to be his best friend and hang out all the time. He was so funny and so just comfortable in his skin, and smart and quick. I had a great time with him. And Amy was lovely, of course. She was so sweet. We'd been shooting for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we were on Hollywood Boulevard for an overnight shoot. And when you report to set, when you're called to the set for a scene, for a feature film, you walk through it with the director, and they talk about the blocking, where you're going to go, where the camera's going to be, and so we're all clear. And then you go off, as a human actor, you get your hair and makeup. So it was the first shot of the evening, and I was used to seeing Amy. They had Amy in really high heels because Jason's so tall and she's very petite, so they just raised her up a bit. They always put her in big heels and a lot of hair and makeup. But she came to set for this rehearsal in front of the Pantage. No, I'm sorry, in front of the El Capitan, and she was wearing this simple little nothing of a dress, just straight dress, flats, and she had hair and makeup, and she was super adorable. And I said, Amy, you were so adorable. Can I give you, mind if I give you a hug? She's like, oh, sweetie. So she was an absolute delight. Yeah, Walter ended up being a huge character in that film, but he wasn't originally. Even when we were shooting it, it really wasn't about him. And I guess it still really isn't. It's like the first half of the film is about him, the second half is about the Muppets. But the whole film is really more about the Muppets and the Muppet Show. It was in reshoots that it became about Walter. All that whole prologue, that's me, Walter. That whole thing at the very beginning of the film. We did that in reshoots because after we finished the movie, they took it to the Pixar Brain Trust, and they said, this should be Walter's story. So we did, and Walter having the bad dream and waking up the nightmare. That was all in reshoots. So I did not know at the time it was going to be such a big deal. The other thing about Walter that I've said in a lot of interviews was it was the most challenging character I ever had to learn, because during the initial table reads, Bill suggested that I just use my own voice, which I'm losing at the moment. But because he said, the character voice I was doing, he said he sounds kind of young, and he's supposed to be like in his 20s, and the puppet itself looks kind of young. So what happens if you just use your own voice? And so I did, and everyone at the table was like, "Oh yeah, do that." And that was really hard as a puppeteer. I'm used to hiding behind goofy voices to do these characters. It's not about me; it's about this thing over here. So it was a real challenge. That was the first time that I ever did a character with just my own unaffected voice. And Bill would keep me honest too. I remember the first weeks of the shooting, he'd come up to me every now and then after a take. He's like, "Oh, you sounding kind of young." So I'd have to bring. I go up into here. And, oh no, sorry, it's right here. So you had to keep me honest with that. And then of course, after I did that, then I have the skill. So then when I auditioned for Daniel years later for Julia's dad on Sesame Street, it was like, oh yeah, I'll just do my own voice. It's not such a big thing anymore. But it was a real wall for me to break. It was a real. It was hard. It was difficult, but it was so fun. And I mean, it was fun, but also I was terrified all the time. But fun, but terrified. Kind of like my first season on Sesame Street. Like, I'm scared if I screw up any minute, I'm going to lose my dream job. And I knew at the time this has to be the absolute best I can be. I can't get a B grade on this. It has to be an A-level work, and I'm a lazy person by nature. So, like, okay, I'm really focused. Yeah,
2011 film. Yeah, it's so great.
Oh yeah, it really is. And it's interesting. You had mentioned how close everybody was with Jason Segel, because there's a behind the scenes photo I remember seeing where it was Jason Segel's birthday, and I think that was on Hollywood Boulevard. I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we were shooting the big scene on Hollywood Boulevard.
That's got to be a dream come true. Spending your birthday with the Muppets. Come on.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's just a brilliant man.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Walter had his dream come true, and so did Jason. Hand in hand, beautiful. It was beautiful.
I remember before we started filming, James Bobin, the director, took me out to lunch to talk about the character and his take on Walter. And we went to lunch, and he was basically telling me his take on Walter and Walter's life story. And he was telling me my life story. I said, that's me. Jason wrote me. And it turns out there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of Walters out there.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
guys who didn't really feel like they belong, felt like the other, but found common ground and acceptance and joy with the Muppets. And it's like, that's me. So and that's a lot of us.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, similar to Sesame Street, you've also inherited a few Muppet characters, including Robin, Lips, Statler, and among others. What went into I don't know what the word is for this. Getting these characters and kind of inheriting them.
Yeah, so not so much sort of inheriting. You know, the way you get characters usually is you create them or you audition for them, you're just cast as them. You know, I had to audition for Tutter, I had to audition for Walter. I was given Snook. I was cast as Joe from Legal and got to develop him, which is a whole other story. Statler, you know, after Steve left, there were these great characters that needed to continue on, and Debbie McClellan was the head of Muppet Studios at that time, and I have a really good Statler, and I was available and already one of the guys, and so that's how I got Statler. There wasn't really much of anything. Robin was gifted to me by Matt when Matt started doing Kermit. He said, "Well, I can't do them both." And he said, I talked to Debbie and I said, I would like Peter to do Robin. So that's how I got Robin. I got Link Hogthrob much the same way I got Statler because I have a link. I don't know if I really have him right now because my throat's not really there. But he's very important and very good looking. Yeah. What else was the question?
What about Lips?
Okay. Yeah, so Lips was you know, right place, right time, but he didn't talk really. I mean, I know in the ABC series he did, and I know what Steve's take on him was for his voice. But in 2023, you can't have someone who looks like me trying to talk like a jazz singer from New Orleans, like Satchmo. And I think that was where the original inspiration for Lips' voice was coming from for Steve anyway. And for years, he really basically didn't have a voice.
Right.
So that brings us to Muppets Mayhem.
Yes.
Yes.
Love
Yes,
And-
love
Mayhem.
love
Yes,
Muppets
yes.
Mayhem.
Love it.
Thanks,
Love the
guys.
series.
Me too. We're still gutted that we don't get to play more with
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that
are
show.
we. So are we. So are we.
Can't wait for the second season. Let's go.
Yeah.
I know, right?
But hey, you know, that opens, you know, opportunities for other Muppet projects to come. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So Bill and I were talking about it, and you know, he was already starting to develop the show with Adam and Jeff Yorks and Adam Goldberg, and he said, "Petey, I was thinking, what if Lips is a mumbler?" And he said, just do with that what you will, and whatever. And I said, "Oh, that's funny. That could be a funny thing." So that was like 9 months, eight. I don't know. It was a long time before we started shooting. So I got to think about what that would mean and what that would sound like. And so I played with a lot of different ideas and really kind of struggled with it for a while. And had a couple of phone calls with Bill to make sure I was kind of on the right track. But yeah, I ended up where I ended up with this deep no gravel in his voice, because you know a lot of the Mayhem characters are kind of, you know, Dr. T, there's a lot of gravel and stuff, and they're pitched a little bit higher, and I have a low voice anyway. So what if I just ended up with this really deep, as deep as I can go, and with no gravel, no this stuff, just relax my throat, you know, and I thought the other thing would be fun if he's got a really really deep voice, for his talking, he should have a really high laugh.
Yeah, the
Yeah, almost.
yeah.
Yeah, almost
That's
kind of like a
okay.
Tutter.
Yeah, that's
Kinda-
what I came over with. Yeah, that was it. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You should have got it.
Oh, that's great. I want to quickly mention the Muppets from Space because I know you actually did a little cameo on that.
Oh, yes.
I don't. I. There are a few times in my life where I've been more terrified than I was at that moment.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
'cause on
tell.
top of
Look,
And because on
I'm
top of
sweating
that,
bullets.
you had to kind of fill in with Miss Piggy during
Right,
most of
yeah.
the movie
and
too.
I wasn't scared about that.
Yeah.
I felt for whether it was deserved or not, I felt fairly confident about being able to pull off the pig because Frank was going to loop and I'm okay, and I knew that Bill and the other guys had my back, so I wasn't really nervous about that. Super nervous about being on camera as myself, saying words.
Yes.
Somehow one of the trailers they didn't bother replacing the voice. Hey stranger, wait.
How are you?
DJ Bob has joined us, everybody.
Yes.
Yay, Bob.
The man, the myth, the
One
legend.
of our
I
favorite
told you
animated-
I told you I wasn't gonna hijack the call, but here I am.
Here you are hijacking the call.
Here you are
Yo.
anyway.
Oh my gosh,
How are
amazing.
you, Bob?
Thought I'd
Come on.
surprise you.
Well, you done did that.
How are you, Bob?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
good. I was looking at our email correspondences, and the first time we interacted was right when the first Muppets movie finished shooting.
Huh, how about that?
That was 13 years ago.
Wow.
Something like
Gosh,
that, yeah.
And you and I were in our teens then.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Although it's pretty weird. I've always been kind of elderly because I've been in a wheelchair my entire life. But there's that.
And that makes you
So-
older. Bob, I'm so thrilled you're here. I'm dying. I'm dying with these guys. And thank goodness you're here to liven it up to make this a little more entertaining for us. Hey,
That's what I do.
Can I share something with you all?
Yeah.
I wanna
Sure,
share something.
of course.
No.
Yeah.
So my beautiful wife Alice Deneen and longtime friend, fellow
Yes.
puppeteer.
Very happy for you both.
So
by the
happy
way.
for you
Thank you.
both.
Thank you. Me too. Well, for my birthday,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. So for my birthday, not this past summer, but while we were shooting Mayhem in June of 2022, she gave me this wonderful toy van that she
Aw.
had
wow.
painted up like the
Oh,
Mayhem van.
Great. That's wonderful.
So I was so thrilled, and it's so cool. And then and I said, well, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to have the inside done. And so Bethany Barton, who's this incredible, she's a writer, author, illustrator, art director, props maven, introduced me to a friend of hers who customized the inside. And I took a zillion pictures of the van, and I don't know if this will come through, but I'll show you guys the inside of this thing.
Oh, look at
That's so
that.
sweet.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That is amazing.
That's the
Somebody
inside.
needs to make like a Lego set of the
Oh,
Mayhem
yeah.
bus.
Oh, that'd be
Look
cool.
at this guitar. I mean, he made every little bit. And
That is sweet.
let's see. Wait. I know I'm getting bad reflections. Hold up. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see the stickers on the dashboard.
Oh, yeah, I see
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
I see him.
Yeah.
And then
Oh.
the ceiling.
Oh,
Heck,
that's
I can't get this.
great.
Trying to get the Polaroids. The ceiling is all Polaroids. Is all the Polaroids. And the actual
yeah.
ones from the show.
Oh, wow.
That's
That is
awesome.
That's-
That is
fantastic.
On the
amazing.
back. There it is. Yeah.
It's honestly scary as to how accurate that is. Wow.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, it's super accurate. He even did on the front seats. Now you don't really see this in the show, but
Mhm.
you see the shirt. They're on the show. They're tie-dye T-shirts. They're just thrown over
Uh-huh.
the seats, and at the neckline, what you're seeing underneath there is the upholstery of the seats. Crud.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Yeah. Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
Oh.
amazing.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's great.
I love this little thing. Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
That
Okay,
is
so-
sweet.
That's really cool.
So before we kind of wrap up here and ask the last question, I also wanted to quickly bring up Don Quixote, which
yeah.
I absolutely love. And that's one of, for those who don't know, Don Quixote is one of David and Adam Rudman's creations. They've created countless shows. What's it like getting to perform Clyde the Cloud?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. He's a big marshmallow. Listen, anytime I get to go to Chicago and work with Spiffy Pictures, it is just the best. It's just the best. It's the most wonderful group of people. They're all incredible at their jobs. It's a nice small group, so it's, I'm used to working in these big companies, but with the Rudmans, it's this wonderful, incredibly talented, competent group of people, and everybody on that set is on the same page, and it's one of my most favorite things and most favorite places to get to work is on any Spiffy project.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the last question that Matt's about to ask is a question we ask all of our guests at the end. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you very much, Chris. This podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of? Or in your own words, how do you define the word nostalgia?
It's a bittersweet longing and remembrance of things past that were very dear to you or you experienced during a formative time of your life.
Wonderful, great words to end on.
Yes, thank you.
But thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was a blast.
Yes, and and thank you so much for taking the time for you, be a guest and chat with us. And thank you so much, for what you've done over the years. Be a part of our lives. Keep up great work what you're doing now. And can I read what's next in store for you?
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me. Thank you for being fans. Muppet, you guys are the best. You are really so near and dear to my heart.
Thank you.
You all are wonderful.
You're the best as always.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day, Peter. Again, happy for you and Alice, and hope the both of you have a happy holiday season.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Same
Happy
to all of
holidays
you
to
and
you
yours.
both.
Yes, keep
Yes, thank you
Christmas
very
with
much.
you.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yes.
That's good. That's nice.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Peter. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
It's goodbye from us as well, folks. First of all, thank you, Bob, for agreeing to hop in again. I know
You got it.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
and
Thank you,
yes, if you heard us talking about the DJ Bob show, that's because obviously Bob here is the
That's his
host of
show.
that, and the reunion that we were talking about in 2017, we did an interview celebrating the 20th anniversary of Bear, and
Yeah, that was fun.
that was fun. We interviewed the main cast, Noel and Peter, Vicky, Tyler. And then before that, we interviewed like Peter Lurie, Mitchell Kriegman, some of the other people who worked behind the scenes, which we also eventually had on our show.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But yes, glad we were able to make it happen with Peter
Yes.
Linz. We absolutely enjoyed our
Yes.
time with him.
Yes, he's so great. And if any of you want to check out his social media, the links from the description down below, so you guys can connect.
Yes,
and
but
check out what he's doing.
goodbye from us as well. Keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. See ya. Bye.
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 Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.